How do you find epic campsites while you're out on your adventures? Do you use an app like Gaia GPS or OnX Offroad? Are you kind of more old school and you use paper maps? Or maybe you just make your reservation at a campsite online before you head out? Whatever you do, comment down below right now and tell me, how do you find your campsites? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Varsity Overland channel. My name's Ken, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Talk. This is a segment where I speak about maybe a popular overland topic or a popular topic that just happens to be on my mind at the moment. And today's topic is finding epic campsites while you are out there exploring, overlanding, whatever you're doing. I'm going to share my method as to how I find my campsites, especially very recently, how I happen to find my campsites. And then I'm also going to share how I used to do it, which was definitely not recommended. I was pretty much just winging it. But this is on my mind because over the past couple weeks, I've been gearing up for another adventure. My wife and I are going to head up to Maine and spend about a week exploring that. It's not the first time I've been to Maine. If you haven't seen my North Maine adventure series, I'm going to link it in the corner right now so you can check that out. But I have been, very vigorously going through so many different maps to try and find some pretty cool campsites. And although my process that I'm currently using is, I'll admit, a little complex, it seems to be yielding some pretty awesome destinations, and I wanted to share that with you guys. If you're interested in seeing how that trip progresses, definitely subscribe to the channel. I'm definitely going to put together a series for that, and if you want to see some behind the scenes stuff that I'll be posting during the trip while we're out there exploring, hit that little join icon beneath the video so you can become a part of the Varsity members team. But let's go back to the beginning. How did I used to find campsites? I've been doing this for about 4.5, probably close to 5 years actually now, and the way I do it now is way better than it used to be. Like I said earlier, I'm pretty much just used to wing it. I used to use an app called Gaia GPS, but I used the free version of it when we were first getting started. I know that you can pay for a subscription now. You can do, it offers all sorts of little, cool features. I used to do the free version just to see if I really enjoyed it while we were kind of getting into this exploring, overlanding thing. And with the free version, we were pretty much just looking for, trail access on public land or Forest Service land, like National Forest Service. And after that, we would, just kind of like pin it on Gaia GPS, plug it into the truck's navigation and go. And there were definitely a couple times where we didn't have service when that was happening because I wasn't able to download the maps from Gaia. I wasn't paying for it, so I wasn't able to download anything ahead of time. So we had to kind of do it on the fly. Led to a lot of like late night campsite hunting in the dark and, coming across a piece of land that we thought we'd just be able to camp on and then realize it was private property. Oh, can't do that. Got to keep going. Yeah, so it kind of turned the whole process of finding camp into like a job. And when something becomes a job, when you shift that mindset during your adventure, instantly it's no fun. You want to keep something as easy as possible. You want to keep something as enjoyable as possible, for obvious reasons, so that you'll keep doing it. And hunting for campsites was definitely not something we were good at. After we were done using Gaia and after we kind of started to evolve our process, I met up with Jeremy from AT4 Overland Bound. He and I have been on many adventures over the past couple years, and thanks to him and his knowledge of OnX Offroad, I have definitely become way better at the whole planning process as well. With his knowledge, and of course now that he's a OnX Offroad trail guide, it definitely kind of hits home that he knows what he's doing. And so I've taken a bit of what I've learned from him, and then I've kind of thrown a little twist of my own in there. So I'm going to share that with you guys right now. The method that I use, like I said, slightly complicated, but I'm going to walk you through it. I use 3 different apps 2 of them free to use. One of them is paid. So the paid one is OnX Offroad. Like I said, thanks to my buddy Jeremy, I've learned a lot about OnX, and I definitely feel like it is worth the subscription. So I use OnX Offroad. I pay for the subscription. I'm gonna give an example of how I use that along with the other 2. The other 2 apps that I kind of piggyback along with OnX are Overlander, which has been around for a very long time. It has had some tweaks over the years. I know some people have complained that there's some features about it now that you do have to pay for. I don't pay for that extra stuff. So my version, I guess you could say, of Overlander is still the free version. The third thing that I use is, believe it or not, Google Maps. So why do I toggle between these 3 things? Well, Google Maps, Overlander, and OnX Offroad all, to some extent, provide campsite locations. Overlander is kind of like, I'd say, the one with the most campsite locations. That's the nature of that app, is to give you established either campgrounds or dispersed sites. And other people can use that app, and they drop the pin while they're there, give a little description, and if you're lucky, they provide pictures. And it's the pictures, I think, that matter the most, because otherwise you could be like, oh cool, there's a campsite here, I'm all set, I'm gonna use that one. And then during your trip, you end up arriving to that campsite, and maybe it's just like, you know, a flat spot in the dirt in the middle of the woods. If your hope is that you're going to come across like an epic campsite that might be like a mountaintop view or next to a running river or like whatever, you know, like, and you pull up on something like that, you would think like, wish this person would have included some pictures when they included, you know, this pin on Overlander. But anyway, Overlander's got most of the campsites. OnX Offroad does have campsites marked. I think they're getting better at it. There is a feature that I was just able to download where wild dispersed camping is an option to pop up when you zoom in on your maps. Many of the locations here in the Northeast still say dispersed camping pending, I think is what it says. So like it'll continuously, it'll feed in over time, I imagine. There are some marked. I tend to use OnX as my way of marking the sites that I found on the other 2. So Overlander and Google Maps. Google Maps is obviously helpful for the whole, like, you know, you can click on the satellite view so you can actually see what the terrain and see what the location look like. But believe it or not, Google Maps also has campsites marked. And I didn't realize this. So you might be watching and you might be like, yeah, I've seen that before. I didn't realize this until very recently. 2 nights ago, I'm just, you know, kind of like poking around at all my maps that I have on my phone, planning for our trip. And I zoomed in like a lot on one location on Google Maps, and all of a sudden this like little icon popped up. And someone had marked a campsite. And I was like, whoa. Does that happen like in other areas? So I start, you know, swipe left, swipe right, kind of moving around, and I found other ones as well. The trouble is you really got to zoom into a specific area. And what I did after that was I started to compare. I went to OnX, and then I went to Overlander, and I realized that each of these 3 have different sites that are marked, but none of them share those sites. So I'm going to provide an example in a second. I'm going to do a screen record on my phone while I show the example, and the campsite in question is marked on Google. It is not on Overlander, and it's also not on OnX. So, you know, I'll find it on one of those 3 apps, and then I'll use the other apps to kind of like, I don't know, triangulate or corroborate the location. One of them has, you know, a satellite view, so you can actually see what the terrain looks like, whether or not it's a clearing through the woods or whether it's actually right up against the lake or right up against the river that you're hoping to get to or whatever. And then I use the 3 to kind of like, you know, figure out exactly where that is, exactly what it might look like. And then I pin it on OnX because that's the one I pay for, and that's the one that I'm going to be able to download that map. But anyway, let's do a screen record, and we're going to take a look at the options here and how I go about doing this. So I'm going to use, by the way, I'm going to use a very generic, kind of vague location. This is a place that I found on Google Maps that somebody else had marked. I don't know what the place looks like. I don't think there's any pictures provided. I also can't verify, that the location is still open or the location is not on somebody else's property. It's just something that I'm using for the video. I've never been there, and I also don't plan to go there. Anyway, so screen record's going on. I found this location on Google. It's been marked, it's Nullheadus Pit, I guess. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not. But this has been marked on Google Maps, and it's on this section of the Golden Road, and I would like to go back to the Golden Road. I've been there twice. Both of them are recorded on the North Main Adventure series, which is on my YouTube channel if you're interested in seeing that. But I want to take my wife. She hasn't been to the Golden Road to see that. So we've picked a destination, and now we're trying to make the campsite situation around that destination work. So, the boring way and the tedious way to do it is to just open up one of these 3 apps and kind of scroll along, the Golden Road, or scroll along the location that you're hoping to go to. Maybe it's like, a mountain that you want to visit or something like that, until you see whether or not a campsite has been marked on iOverlander or OnX or Google. So that's what I did, and I ended up finding this one next to the Golden Road. And then from there, I went over to iOverlander, and with iOverlander I was able to see, okay, nope, nobody else marked that in that location. But when I zoom out enough, somebody did mark another location, campsite location, beneath this lake. So there's a lake nearby, and someone marked that. So that secondary location is now my plan B spot in case the first one doesn't work out, and I'm going to be able to mark that on my OnX off-road map. Beyond that, I go over to OnX just to kind of verify what the satellite view looks like, verify that the trails there are still marked. I think OnX has the most honest representation of trails, so I'm not going to come across a gate or something like that, closed or whatever. So now I'm going to drop the pin, and maybe going to name it something like, possible camp, just because I'm not 100% sure about this whole thing. I just kind of did it quick. I'm personally not going to visit this camp, but just for the sake of the video, I've marked it, right? And then what I could do beyond that is I could zoom out and mark the secondary one beneath the lake that I found on iOverlander. So it's kind of complex. It does require a little bit of time, bouncing back and forth between these apps. Maybe the way you do it is with Gaia GPS, but the idea is still the same. Now, the other thing about incorporating Google Maps that makes this beneficial is Google Maps has that street view version. Now in this area right here that I just gave you the example on this little bend here of the Golden Road, it doesn't have a street view. I can click on it, I can hold down, it doesn't give me that option. But some areas might give you that option when you can go down to the street view and kind of like rotate the camera view. You can actually see from a different angle what that area looks like. Maybe you're trying to verify that it is a clearing. Maybe you are trying to verify that there's a fire ring or a picnic table or whatever you're looking for. Sometimes the aerial view just kind of like is covered by, a treetop. So you can't really see what the actual spot looks like. An example that I have is a hike that we're hoping to go to. There's a dam along the Golden Road, and I was reading an article somewhere that someone said that the trailhead is right next to this dam. It's marked by a green gate. You just walk around the gate. And, aerial views and gates, especially a green gate in the middle of the woods. It's not like it's yellow. It's not like it's white or orange. It's green in the middle of the woods. That gate is not popping up on my satellite aerial view. So luckily I was able to click the road on the dam, get down to a roadside view, and then I was able to verify that the gate was right there. So maybe you can use that idea when you're finding a campsite as well. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get it right and you want to find the best spots, it's going to take a lot of research. It's going to take some time, and you may have to use my method of kind of bouncing back and forth between a couple different apps. And I would love to hear your method. So if you haven't commented down below yet, please do so. Just kind of say, what do you use? How do you do it? Last thing I'm going to say is, let's be respectful about the campsite location sharing stuff. Please be, be understanding. If you ask someone to share a campsite and they're not willing to, it probably has nothing to do with how they feel about you as a person. It's more about, not wanting to be the one person to give it away, and then you find out that it's trashed, right? If we share campsite locations and you share it with the one person you trust, and they share it with the one person they trust, and so on and so on and so on, all of a sudden, there's a dozen or 24 people that know about this spot. And even if every one of them is respectful and they do clean up after themselves, it's still going to be a lot more trafficked than it used to be. It has nothing to do with us being power hungry gatekeepers that want to keep the best spots for ourselves. At least I'd like to think that's the case. It's not the case with me. I would love to share every campsite that I go to. There's that ethical piece in my brain, or that responsible piece that makes me go, yeah, but what if? What if it does get trashed? And now I would feel partially responsible. So anyway, thanks for sticking around, everybody. I appreciate the view. Comment down below if you haven't yet. How do you find your campsites? And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.